Okay, so there's lots of kinds of wax out there for carving. For me personally, when it comes to sand casting, I like the blue carving wax, and I like it because it has a little bit more give to it than like the green and the purple. I know there's other brands out there, but you know that's up for you to decide what you want to do. But I'm going to go with the blue, and so I think it's a good idea to have multiple types. For a small band. Let's see, this one right here is for off center. That one's just thick all the way around. And I've got a couple of different ones of this one that have different size tops, different size thicknesses on the bottom. So that's something you may want to buy. And again, I don't care what color you get, but I prefer blue. So that's where we'll start. We sit down here. Hopefully I can do this. I got the camera kind of like above, and I've got this little area I have to keep reminding myself to stay in. So let's see. What I want to do is with the new kit I sell, this is one of the sizes, and the way you would see what size this is by taking a millimeter gauge, putting it on here, and of course I can't see. I got to put take the glasses off, and okay, so now I can see. So this is 19 millimeter. So what you would do is you'd take your mandrel and you'd slide down till you hit 19 millimeter, and that's about a size 9. So we're going to make this a size 9. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, of course, is decide which one of these you're going to use. And I'm going to use this one right here, same thickness all the way around. This is a file I picked up at Harbor Freight. It's fairly aggressive. And I'm going to file down one side so that it's nice and flat. I think I need a little more light. Try that. And once it's flat, then the next thing I want to determine is how wide I want the band. And so what you're going to need is just a simple millimeter gauge and a pair of dividers. Now, the dividers, they're in millimeters, so you set it at the beginning there, and let's just go with, say, something simple like a 4 millimeter band. Man, I'm blind. Okay. So this is set at 4 millimeters. You're going to want to put it against one side, turn the wax, and create a line all the way around. Once you do that, now there's various types of saw blades you can get that are for wax. They have some that are kind of spiral and they look like barbed wire. And this one, I just found these recently. I saw another jeweler using them, and they're like a regular saw blade, but they're missing. It's like there's a tooth, and then a tooth has been removed, and so it's spaced. The teeth are spaced out. So what I would do is I would take and cut this on the outside of this line. Man, these cut really good. And as you're cutting it, turn it. And it's going to get deeper and deeper there until pretty soon you'll hit the center. And as the blade warms up, it gets harder to cut. So a regular saw blade won't work for this. I mean, it'll work, but it's a real pain. Okay, I knew I was going to drop it. So let me find that. All right. So once you have this, you can go around, you can see where your line's at. And now you're going to want to take, I like to have the bench pin slant down. Some people like it the other way. I don't care what you do, but for me, I like to be filing at an angle. And of course this came and it was straight across, and I just took and cut this out in a shape that I like to work against. And so as I file this, I'm going to keep looking at my line here. I gotta say, with the camera above, I need to get closer, and I'll have to figure it out on the next video. So we're going to take care of width first, and we're just going to file this till it's up next to that line. You could also take, say 220, maybe a little more aggressive emery paper, and you could hold this down and do it that way if that works better for you. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to that line. You may have to flip it over and do the other side again if it's been rubbing on the wood. Now we want a size 9. So there's different ways to do this. You could do it like this, or you could take, if it's a 19, you could take your millimeter gauge and let's see, you could take and go to 19. And once you hit 19, you could figure out how much over the circle it is. And this is about 2.5 millimeters over. Then you could take this down to where it's at 2.5 millimeters. Then you could take and go around this. You'd want to do it on both sides. And then if you had something like a barrel burr, or you could have something like a small aggressive file like this, and you could file it out. But what I'm going to do is they make this ring sizer for waxes. Try and keep this in the picture. You got to hold it. And you just kind of ream it out. And as you're going, you'd flip it over. And so these are not accurate. So you're going to want to keep checking it on a mandrel. So we're just about a size 8. You want to do it gentle. If you really hold on to that wax, you're probably going to break it. Like I said, I keep trying to do this so I think you guys can see it. I can't see the camera, it's above my head. So what I'll do is I'll take my mandrel And I'll run it down. I want to get it to where it's going to be at about 9. You also want to make sure that this is straight on here. If it's cutting at an angle, you're going to have a crooked ring. It's gonna like sit like that. You don't want that. So now we'll take this and use this as our sizer now. And I'm really close. So I'm going to be really careful. I don't want to get it loose. If you force it on, you're probably going to break it. You can use something like this. So we're getting really close there. Now, if you just have the standard sand casting kit, you can make this whatever size you want, but if you have the new kit that uses the vacuum assist, currently I just have the 3 sizes, so that's why I'm using this particular one here. And so now that would slide down really nicely there, and so we're at the right size. So the next thing would be to determine how thick you want this. You can take your millimeter gauge and you can check it, and we're at about 4.2. And so what you would do again is take your dividers, line them up. I think if we went with like a 3 millimeter band, that'd be great. So based off the center, we'd go all the way around. Definitely need better light here. I can't. It's like I'm working in the dark here. So once we go all the way around, then you could take your file, use your bench pen, don't do it up in the air. Keep an eye on that line. Flip it over. So you can see I'm turning the wax as I'm filing. Now if you get really fancy, you could get a little lathe, like a watchmaker's lathe, and you could do this perfectly. But you got to learn how to do it, so it's best to start with a file. I have a watchmaker's lathe, but it's not even hooked up right now. Flip it over. So we're getting we're pretty close there to our line. You could, at this point, you could do, you could create a half round by leaving the top high and doing the edges. You could add a comfort fit by using something like this at an angle, or you could even take a file like this. It's got an aggressive side and a side that's not quite as aggressive. And a good way to clean them is with one of these. And then you could put that against your bench pin and file at an angle, and you can create a comfort fit, or you can cast it and add the comfort fit later. Just depends on what you want to do. So I'd say for sand casting, I wouldn't make this like baby bottom smooth. I would just leave it what the file leaves on here. I wouldn't worry about making it too smooth. When you cast it, it's going to have kind of a texture on it anyways, and it's going to require filing. So I guess we'll leave it at that, and that'll be the first lesson for carving a very basic wax. And I'll turn this off now. All right, wow, 16 minutes.